Greetings everyone and welcome to Spacing Out. I'm Jason McClellan.
And I'm Maureen Elsberry. Thanks for joining us today.
It's great to be back after our brief hiatus. Our studio is back in one piece and we've mostly recovered from the International UFO Congress.
2013 was another great year for the Congress. The event was well attended and the selection of presentations on varying topics kept the audience engaged.
We'll talk more about the Congress later in the show, but now let's talk about news stories that have made headlines recently.
On Tuesday, March 5th, actor Russell Crowe posted a link on his Twitter account to a video compilation of 3 time exposure photos showing what he asserts is a UFO. But some believe the mysterious object in Crowe's photos has been identified.
Nancy Atkinson of Universe Today published an article on May 7th titled Mystery Solved, Breakdown of Russell Crowe's UFO Video, in which he references a video by Phil Pulling, a Para Breakdown, an apparent Bigfoot research group. Atkinson explains that in this video, Pulling provides a breakdown of why Crowe's UFO is most likely to be a series of long exposure photos of a, wait for it, passing sailboat with a high mast.
So is the mystery solved? Many have closed the book on the UFO mystery, accepting the boat identification, but not Crowe. As the Herald Sun reports, in response to the boat assertion, Crowe took to his Twitter account again to refute the claim. He tweeted, "RE UFO? It can't be a yacht. Would have to be traveling 80 kilometers per hour, 50 miles per hour to cover the distance in 4.5 seconds.
As Alejandro Rojas pointed out on March 7th in his article on OpenMinds.tv, it is still unclear why Crowe waited 4 years to post these photos. This peculiarity has some speculating that the photos were released as a publicity stunt by Crowe.
A new study suggests that salt water from the massive ocean beneath the icy surface of Jupiter's moon Europa makes its way to the surface through cracks in the ice sheet, a discovery that could be good news for the search for extraterrestrial life.
As Space.com explains, scientists have detected chemicals on Europa's frozen surface that could only come from the global liquid water ocean beneath, implying the two are in contact and potentially opening a window into an environment that may be capable of supporting life as we know it.
According to Popular Science, researchers hypothesize that when salty water from Europa's subsurface ocean makes its way to the surface, it is exposed to sulfur from Jupiter's largest moon, Io. The sulfur interacts with magnesium chloride in the water and produces magnesium sulfate, according to the study's lead author, Mike Brown of Caltech in Pasadena.
This discovery shows that chemical activity and energy transfer occur on the surface of Europa, which is important for the search for life there because, as Popular Science explains, any alien creatures living on the frigid moon would need an energy source. The sun is far too dim at that distance to really do anything. And with ocean water making its way to Europa's surface, scientists may be able to collect samples without drilling through the ice sheet. The team's study will be published in Astronomical Journal.
Moons in our own solar system, like Europa, aren't the only moons of interest in the galaxy. A team of scientists at Harvard University is optimistic that faraway moons could be home to extraterrestrial life.
The International Business Times explains that moons orbiting other planets, also known as exomoons, are thought to be among the likeliest places for alien life, because they are far smaller than the other planets found so far, which are characterized chiefly by their crushing gravity and lack of rocky surface.
Exomoon habitability was the subject of a recent study published in the January issue of the journal Astrobiology by Renee Heller of Germany's Leibniz Institute for Astrophysics, Potsdam, and Rory Barnes of the University of Washington and the NASA Astrobiology Institute. As Space Daily describes, these researchers suggest that the climatic conditions expected on extrasolar moons will likely differ from those on extrasolar planets, because moons are typically tidally locked to their planet.
With the same side of these moons always facing their planets, they would benefit from 2 light sources: the light from the planets they orbit and the light from the star orbited by those planets, which would subject these moons to eclipses that could significantly alter their climates, reducing stellar illumination. Heller and Barnes cite tidal heating as a requirement for exomoon habitability. Tidal heating would serve as an additional energy source and would be triggered by a moon's distance to its host planet. The closer the moon, the stronger the tidal heating.
NASA's Kepler Space Telescope has detected more than 2,700 planetary candidates. Exomoons haven't been discovered yet, but Harvard astronomers who are sifting through information collected by Kepler say the data indicates there is a good chance that out of the 250 most promising planets, 50 have a signal suggesting they could have their own moons.
Space.com explains the discovery of alien moons will open up an exciting new frontier in the continuing hunt for habitable worlds outside the solar system. According to Bill Borucki, Kepler's principal scientist and astronomer at NASA's Ames Research Center, it is becoming clear that exomoons could be one of the likeliest places to find alien life.
On Wednesday, February 27th, the Vizian Daily Star published a story with a photo showing a government employee posed with an extraterrestrial-looking creature outside of Bacolod City Government Center in the Philippines.
The Vizian Daily Star reports that this woman, Emily Santodelsis, was surprised to see a 2-foot-tall figure that looked like an extraterrestrial creature standing beside her in the photo taken with her cell phone by a fellow city employee at approximately 4 p.m. on Tuesday, February 26th. But Santodelsis reportedly claims she only noticed the extraterrestrial when she viewed her photo later. She apparently had a coworker pray over her because the experience left her extremely terrified.
According to the Vizian Daily Star, some employees have claimed that they had seen about 4 of these extraterrestrial beings in the area. And if having an extraterrestrial appear in one of her photos wasn't enough, another photo taken on the same day shows a streak of lightning hitting Santodelsis in the head.
Coincidentally, or perhaps not, lightning and extraterrestrials are special effects recently added to the cell phone camera application Camera 360. The current version of this free app, version 3.9, was released on December 6, 2012. It features a new photo effect titled 2012 that adds a UFO, an extraterrestrial, or lightning to a photo.
Earlier this year, a similar extraterrestrial appeared in a photo taken by a police officer at the Krabi beach in Thailand. The officer told the Bangkok Post the photo was not edited, and if any organization wants to use the image for research, they can contact the police station. But as the Bangkok Post pointed out, this extraterrestrial is identical to the extraterrestrial used in Camera 360's advertising. I'm flabbergasted still. It looks so obviously fake to me. But not only, once we found this camera app, we kept getting more people sending us photos with this, trying to pass it off as real.
And that's the big problem here. And when this initially came to our attention, we started seeing photos with this particular creature in the photos. I wasn't going to write anything on it because, like you said, to me, it was obviously something fake and didn't need to be addressed. But we started getting multiple people sending us photos, trying to pass them off as true, and even worse. As we mentioned, the James Fox film thing where they're offering this reward for ET evidence, people were sending us stuff saying, don't show this to anybody because I plan to show it to James Fox and submit this as evidence. It's just really shameful, and so we wanted to bring this to people's attention and point it out.
I'm not going to lie, I emailed that person back with a link to that story and said, nice try, you're not winning any $100,000 prize for that.
Yeah, it just goes to show, the evidentiary value of photos and videos has been diminished greatly. Absolutely anything can be created on a computer. That doesn't mean that we throw out all photos and videos. Photos and videos are still evidence that contributes to a case, but you really have to be careful when looking at photos and videos.
In fact, then Jason made me download the application on my Android phone, because it's an Android app. And so we took some photos with mysterious extraterrestrial creatures appearing on our photos too.
Yeah, they were kind of hanging out on my desk. And I will point out that the app is available for Android and iPhone, but the 2012 photo effect isn't available on the iPhone version.
Okay.
So that's just an Android one. Talking about another photo now is the Russell Crowe photos, and those made huge news.
Oh my gosh.
So many headlines, and it's still making headlines. Now, again, as we mentioned, I'm not sure what the motive was here behind publicizing these photos 4 years apparently after they were taken.
So apparently, the speculation behind this is that Russell's newest movie just bombed at the box office, and he was pissed that they didn't do enough advertising for it.
Yeah.
And so that drew a little more publicity towards that movie, but I don't know if that's the real reason or whether he just stumbled upon it again or what happened. But and then TMZ even posted after this sailboat photo thing went on, they interviewed Mark D'Antonio about this photo, and he came up with...
Yeah, they actually did, and I'm suspecting that Mark only was shown one photo and was focusing on the wrong thing, because his suggestion was that it could be an airplane, a commercial aircraft or a helicopter. And I think when you look at the photo, I think he was just looking at the top light, because these were timed exposure photos, so the shutter was open longer and lights do streak. And so that bright red light you see at the top kind of streaks across the top, which could be explained by a helicopter or aircraft. But I think the boat explanation was done really well, and we do have that photo on our website, openminds.tv. You can watch this analysis of this photo, and you really see the sailboat. I think that's likely.
I agree with you.
Well, those are some of the stories that have made headlines recently. And in our story about Russell Crowe, we referenced a post on openminds.tv by our colleague Alejandro Rojas. And yes, for those of you who are wondering, Alejandro is once again a member of our team here at Open Minds.
Most of us are excited to have him back. No, I'm just kidding. All of us are. And he's joining us right now on the show to talk about some interesting news stories that came out of the Congress this year. Welcome back, Alejandro.
Thanks, Jason and Maureen. It's great to be back, and just in time for the 22nd Annual UFO Congress. There were a lot of great speakers this year, and I posted a couple stories regarding announcements from UFO documentary maker James Fox. First, I love following the UFO interests of Steven Speilberg. And in 2009, when James Fox was on the Larry King show, King had sent a copy of Fox's documentary, I Know What I Saw, to Speilberg. Speilberg then replied with a letter which King forwarded to Fox. However, Spielberg's publicist would not let Fox reveal the contents of that letter. However, at the UFO Congress this year, James Fox decided it was time for him to share what Speilberg had said.
Listen very carefully. Dear Larry, with great curiosity, I watched the documentary you sent over and found it compelling. Personally, I would like to think that we are not alone, and even though I've devoted a generous percentage of my movies to extraterrestrial-related themes, I, for one, have never seen a UFO. That's so unfair! Exclamation point. Now listen to this. This is when it gets interesting for me. I hope you will continue to pursue this topic on your program, and that someday our government will offer a total disclosure about what they know about unidentified flying objects and their true and natural origins. I continue enjoying watching you and all your guests. All my best, Steven, with a signature.
The second revelation from Fox is regarding the much anticipated $100,000 reward for evidence of extraterrestrial visitation, which was officially announced at the UFO Congress.
We have this $100,000 reward, okay? Now, if someone says what I've got is worth more than $100,000, contact me, I could probably generate more, okay? I really mean this. Go to 701 the movie, okay? And contact us. Give us a brief description. Don't have to write a novel. Give us a brief description, email it to us. I promise you we'll get back. We're looking for, it could be in the form of a document, photograph, something that's found at a potential crash site, film footage, video footage. We'll have our panel of scientists look at it, analyze it, and hopefully, like I said before, everyone says no, you can't do it. I think we can do it. So I need your help. So anyway, if you guys know somebody, please pass out the word about the reward, okay?
Another friend of mine who made an appearance at the UFO Congress is Mark D'Antonio. Mark is the photo analyst for the Mutual UFO Network. I've known Mark for several years since I was a functional director at MUFON. Open Minds was able to get an exclusive interview with Mark about an exciting UFO monitoring system that he's working on.
We're in the process actually of creating this system. We have a land-based system and an ocean-based system, and it's going to look for UFOs on land, and it's going to look for USOs underwater. And if we can deploy enough of them, we're going to be able to get data points. It'll transmit back to us via satellite or via the cellular networks. Much of that's already working, and we will have it set up so that we get corroborating data, so that each of these cool little units that we deploy will have 5 or 6 instruments on it as it is, and that will be corroborative data for the singular sighting. But because we have a triangular leg where we have 3 of these deployed, say 10 miles apart, we can now, for instance, see that light in the sky and have this one unit catch it and then immediately tell the other 2 in its legs, go check this out. Right. And they will immediately look. It'll be a sub-millisecond response, and boom, they're all looking at it. With this being the case, what we will be doing is we will be able to take data from all 3 of these, or say 2, or even just 1, and get it back to us and see it in infrared, ultraviolet, EMP, gamma ray, and if we can develop the proper detectors we're looking for, we'll be able to see it in a variety of other radiative emissions that we actually need to find. Because you see, in order to develop a system like this, you have to make some assumptions about how craft like this operate.
Mark is working with some high-profile partners who we can't announce yet, and the project is still in its developmental stages. So stay tuned to Open Minds, and we'll keep you up to date on this exciting project. Back to you, Jason and Maureen.
Thanks, Alejandro. Well, those are some of the bigger stories to come out of the Congress this year, but our 20-plus presentations were newsworthy themselves. If you weren't at the conference this year, here's some of what you missed.
I have seen some amazing UFO events. I've seen them personally. And I think there's a high probability that we've been visited by beings from another world. Having said that, I'm also aware that there are many deceivers and false information that has just permeated the field.
And Bigfoot and skinwalkers, all these things, they appear to us to almost be interconnected.
Of these paranormal cases, one of the investigations I've done back in 2009, it was one of the more eye-opening cases that I experienced. There was a program within one of the under the Navajo Nation.
An ET male who might be someone who's visited the female abductee ever since her childhood. So they've been friends, almost like a friendly uncle sort of relationship. And sometimes that male, when the female is old enough, comes to Earth and impregnates her right here, and then she has a hybrid child.
On the subject of police officers seeing UFOs, 2 other police officers in the 90s saw a UFO. They were mounted police officers, so they were on horseback. What made this sighting so interesting, and it was of lights that changed shape and that the police officers said were visible for about 15 seconds, and they felt strongly enough about this to make an official report.
You're going to find out who they are, where they're from, and what they're doing here. You have to make contact. You can't watch from a distance because you really don't learn anything. These are the cast of characters. I'm not going to add much to the consciousness debate except to talk to the very high-level people that I chased around and show that they knew and that they knew this whole thing right from the word go.
What if it were something that emanated from right here? What if aspects of the UFO technologies that we have sought to understand for decades, what if they're from right here? What if we're dealing with a variety of technology that is so close to home that it's right under our noses and we've managed to miss it this entire time?
Psychology is the study of the mind. But some people say, well, what are the attributes of the mind? And others say, well, maybe we should say psychology is the study of consciousness. But then other people say, well, what's the difference between conscious behavior and subconscious behavior? And so finally, the psychologist said, yes, we know that as a science, psychology is the study of behavior, the problems of behavior, which led one joker to say, first psychology lost its soul, then lost its mind, then lost consciousness.
As you are going to be able to see, there is so much going on right now. After December 21st, everybody was waiting for that date, but not too many people realize that from that moment to now, the sightings around the world have increased dramatically.
Their job was to find out what kind of life shall we put here. Now, this is part of what the abduction program, I don't like the word abductions, what it's all about. They take samplings from everywhere because they use it in creating life wherever they go.
I don't necessarily believe everything that everyone tells me, obviously, but when you have a big case like the Phoenix Lights case, and you have witness after witness after witness describing this thing, and we're not talking ambiguous lights off in the distance.
Including the governor of the state.
Including the governor of Arizona. You know, you talk about this massive, you know, craft, not lights, craft. It starts to hold some weight for me.
And it's very weird because we never experience time slowing down because we don't go fast enough. But it is no different, really, in a fundamental sense, than your pen rotating into a new dimension. And combining what we might call X and Y, now we're combining space and time.
So there's something important going on here. It's 1936, truly in the middle of nowhere. What's going to be out there? Is that German secret technology too? Highly doubtful. I'm thinking no. So there's a phenomenon, I would say, that is the result of some intelligence, very quiet. They're obviously not making a big display of themselves, but they're around and they're interested.
I experienced a terrifying encounter event, which changed a lot about me. It culminated in having to have a procedure to remove something that got lodged up in my sinus, and it subsequently vanished from the hospital where it was taken out. The doctor said, I have no idea where it went, it's never happened here, and he was a surgeon. Now,
so I wrote him a script, and we sent him out, and he got an x-ray taken, and we came back, and we found he had a metallic object in his toe. Well, it was about that visit when the gentleman told me, I didn't tell you the whole truth. I knew who you were when I came in here, and I really didn't come in because you're a foot specialist or a foot surgeon. I came in because I'm an abductee.
Whether it is an ancient alien visit or natural phenomena, there is a lot that they were experiencing and trying to interpret that we probably can't understand, not being in such a pre-industrial culture. And so, you know, we look at things and interpret it from what we see around us. Oh, that's a painting of a flying saucer. It's very, very hard to imagine what they were actually painting at that time.
That was one of the things I discovered on the show, Chasing UFOs. Of all the people that I talked to, we went international, there was the majority of people that we are not alone. And that's a really important point to me, because I think that's the first time in human history we've reached a stage where the general population feels like, you know what, there's probably more going on out there, and that's really powerful. That's a paradigm shift.
He said something in Russian to our translator, and then the translator sort of reluctantly looked at me and he said, well, he wants you to know that if you're here to question as to whether or not UFOs, remember this is 98, 99, whether UFOs are real or not, the door's right over there. I thought, well, what does he mean by that? And what he meant was, that indicates to me that you haven't done your homework. We're not here to talk about whether they exist or they don't exist. We want to talk about the implications. We want to open up an international dialogue with the United States and other countries, and that's why we're meeting with you. Yeah. So,
data on 3,201 sightings. That's a pretty good sample. What did they find? They found that 21.5% of the sightings couldn't be explained completely separate from the 9.7% for which there was insufficient information. But what did the Secretary of the Air Force proclaim? On the basis of this report, we believe no objects such as those popularly described as flying saucers have overflown the United States. Even the unknown 3% could have been identified as conventional phenomena or illusions if more complete observational data had been available.
Et les témoins non préparés d'une manière générale à ce qu'ils voient.
In the problem being studied by Sigma for 5 years, the observable elements consist on random testimonies from witnesses who in general terms are not prepared to experience what they are seeing.
Cette situation est très différente quand l'observateur est un opérateur radar, un pilote de chasse entraîné ou un gardien de site sensible.
This situation is quite different when the observer is a radar operator, a trained fighter pilot, or a guard in an important or secret facility.
High in the Andes, the ancient capital of the Incas, this is the famous 12-sided stone block, which actually appears on the local beer that they make there. So also you have this notching, and you have these small knobs and things like that. What we also see at the Osirion in Egypt, all megalithic buildings. You see in Cuzco different forms of megalithic structures in a jigsaw pattern, a way of locking blocks together.
But enough of it took place in Russia and the Soviet Union to force their military to create a special program. Top military scientists to go from one fleet to another and find out what's going on. And the program was shut down. Nobody knows why in the early 1980s. We don't know what happened to the files, but we know enough to be concerned about it. What the objects were, we still don't know.
I said, there's these reports called Communication Instructions for Reporting Vital Intelligence Sightings, blah, blah, blah. There's service reports. And in the middle of my sentence, he interrupts me. He goes, oh, yeah. He says, I got those right here. I go, what? I go, excuse me? I was dumbfounded. Like, what do you say to that? And he says, and I asked just that. I said, well, I'm sorry? And he says, yeah, no, I got them right here. I like to keep these things handy. I said, okay. Kicking myself, I didn't ask why on that one, but I needed these documents to prove, black and white, the United States Air Force was actively lying.
When I started, I worried about being given a very hard time by almost everybody, because I'm saying something so unpopular. It isn't like that. I don't get that kind of hard time. I get people who are, they're neutral, some of them. You know, I'm not a believer, but tell me why you believe that some of these things are alien, and I'll make my own choice. And so I found that there's a very receptive world out there, as opposed to only 10% believe and the rest think you're full of baloney.
We had a really good lineup of speakers this year, and Maureen, I think we got a lot of positive feedback about the mixture of speakers, the varying viewpoints, and we had more scientists this year and people who aren't so pro-UFO, pro-extraterrestrial, but more on the theoretical side and diving into the science of that.
Right, and those were some of my favorite presentations, was Dr. Michael Dennin and Ben McGee. So it was really great actually having those varying viewpoints on our panels this year, because it provided conflicting opinions and allowed for a lot of people to bounce ideas back and forth in thicker conversation. I agree, and I think the audience really appreciated that, and it made for a more interesting Q&A too, allowing people to come up and confront some of these people with viewpoints that differed from their own. I think it worked really well this year having that. I agree. Well, Jason, let's announce our EBE Film Festival Award winners. The winner of the Best UFO Short Film this year was Indians and Aliens. The winner of the Best UFO Feature Film was Solar Revolution. And the winner of the People's Choice Award was In the Night Sky. An unexpected trip to the hospital almost prevented the film's director, Felix, from making it to the awards ceremony.
They inject me with this thing, and they tell me, count back from 20. So I'm like, all right, 20. And then I scream out, oh, here we go. And I blank out, and all of a sudden I wake up to my chest up in the air, and I land. And I see all these people around me, and just doctor leans in and goes, okay, you're done. We reset your heart. You can leave in about 20 minutes.
I didn't expect to see him the rest of the week. And a few hours later, he's standing by the table smiling.
Walking like nothing happened. Everyone's looking at me and is like, you're here? I'm like, yeah, I got a couple of hours of sleep. Are you kidding me? This is the International Congress UFO Festival. I can't miss a minute of it.
What a crazy story. I can't believe this actually happened.
It's dedication. I mean, I think it's really great that he came back, and I'm glad he's okay.
For this guy, his heart had to be reset. I mean, that's big time stuff.
And then he appeared smiling and happy, and I had no idea that it had happened until he approached me and let me know.
I didn't either.
But one thing I think was really great that he made it to the film festival and won the People's Choice Award is that someone asked him on stage, because he wasn't into UFOs prior to Linda Zimmerman contacting him. And they said, well, what do you think about UFOs now? And he goes, UFOs are the best thing that ever happened to me. I just thought it was great.
The guy was so energetic and excited to be there, and yeah, it was great to meet him and great to have him there. And I'm so glad his film won, and it won by a landslide too with the People's Choice Award.
Yeah, and we'll make sure we're going to have all of the information about these films on the website soon, I promise.
Yep, they'll be there. Well, this year our Researcher of the Year award went to Grant Cameron.
And our Lifetime Achievement Award went to the one and only Stanton Friedman. DVDs of all the presentations from this year's Congress are available for purchase in our online store at openminds.tv.
The 2013 International UFO Congress was a great success, and we're already working on next year's conference. The dates for that will be February 19th through February 23rd, so mark your calendars. Well, that's all for this episode of Spacing Out. Until next week's episode, openminds.tv is where you can go for all the latest UFO news.
Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave your comments below the video. Thanks for watching. I'm Maureen Elsberry.
And I'm Jason McClellan. We will see you in the future.